There's an unconscious bias. A standard quote is, okay, mummy gets pregnant and best of luck and have your great maternity leave. And they get it, right? Full-time mum looking after the child. If a father was to say that, now a father would say, I'm going to be off for 2 weeks and back in the office again. If they said anything above and beyond that, I think people will say, and I've heard in the office, and I've heard from other people as well, you're going on long leave. You're going to have great fun.
Hi, my name is Nadia Nagamutu, business psychologist, coach, speaker, and founder of Avenir Consulting, which creates organisational growth and success via inclusion and diversity. We've been discussing the benefits that diversity brings to companies' bottom line performance for decades with more and more evidence. But there are so many questions organisations still have about how to achieve it. How do you create a culture where people feel valued for their uniqueness and the qualities they bring? I believe it's crucial to the future success and sustainability of every organisation that they find the answer to this question to make sure that each employee is not only supported but also appreciated. With this podcast, I aim to get some of the key challenges to creating inclusive workplaces out in the open and start uncovering the solutions to embracing a culture that cares for everyone. I'm going to be having conversations with some of the most inspiring people in different countries and across industries who are pushing the boundaries on inclusion and diversity in the workplace, from topics such as parenting in the workplace, ethnicity, age, gender, mental health, and all things inclusion. I want to create a movement to change society through sharing life experiences and creating more empathy and connection. Why care? I believe that once we have organisations and societies that accept and value everyone for who they are, we become healthier, happier, and better in our roles both inside and outside work. Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of my Why Care podcast. My name is Nadia Nagamutu, and I am your host. Why aren't more men taking shared parental leave? Why do some men feel it's risky to take it? What challenges do millennial fathers face compared to the generations before them, and why? These questions and many more will be answered on today's podcast when I speak to my guest on the show, Yash Puri. He's a partner in a multinational tech company, and whilst he may try to deny it, a role model since taking shared parental leave and featuring in the BBC News article, Millennial Men Demand Better Parental Leave. This led to him setting up the blog site Papa Penguin, where men and women share their stories and experience of active fathering, the barriers, the challenges, and the rewards. We talk about his experience of shared parental leave and the impact on his life. We also talk about the concept of masculinity and the societal pressures that men still face to be the breadwinner. Finally, Yash Puri explains what organisations need to do in order to accelerate progress towards men embracing their caring responsibilities. I hope you enjoy our conversation. So, Yash, welcome to the Why Care podcast. So good to meet you.
Thank you so much, Nadia. Really glad to be part of this. Exciting.
It is exciting, and I'm super excited about our conversation. Last time we spoke, you were talking to me from a sports centre, I think, whilst your 2 children were at a swimming lesson. So whereabouts are you today?
I'm sitting in my home office away from any noise so we can get crisp quality audio.
Very sensible. Okay, so no splashing in the background today.
No, exactly, no splashing in the background.
I feel like you've been on a fast lane almost since you took shared parental leave.
Yeah.
And then was quite vocal. This was after the birth of your second child, I believe. Yeah. And then the BBC asked you to speak. And then all of a sudden you've got this, well, I'm calling it a rapid rise to fame. That might not be something that resonates with you, but that's how I see it.
No, I do feel famous, so slightly, but that's up to me. But my 5 minute of fame, I had to do something with it. But no, you're right. This whole thing just happened out of nowhere. I had no idea what shared parental leave was up until probably 9 or 10 weeks before me taking it. So with my first, it was very standard. Did my 2 weeks standard leave, went back into the office. Wife was off for the full 12 months, looking after my daughter. And I felt like I missed a lot of her growing up time. I just was too busy with work, and I just felt like, in my mind, I kind of had a new job and I made sure I wanted to deliver on that, and I didn't want to let my employer down. And for me, it was already work, and that's my focus. And at the same time, stressing out with a new dynamic in the family with my daughter. And when my daughter got older, my wife said to me, without a second, you must think about taking some time out. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. Don't worry. And she mentioned to me, you should take shared parental leave. And I said, well, what is that? She goes, well, it's where you can share your leave with myself. So I started Googling it to do some research. And I know Nick Clegg and David Cameron, as part of the coalition government back in 2015, put this policy out there. Then I read up my HR policy because it was not communicated to me at all.
Sure.
Read the policy myself, gave it to my wife, and she goes, yeah, you've got to give 8 weeks of warning and you can just crack on with it. And the rest is kind of history.
I'm curious, your story resonates with me. When we had our baby girl, just in the lead up, we had the same conversation, my husband and I. And one of the conversations we had, and he did take shared parental leave in the end, but he was hesitating because firstly, it wasn't the done thing in his organisation at the time, so he would be setting precedents for it. Secondly, he wasn't sure how KPIs would be managed because he'd be the first one to broach it. Would they take account of the fact that he was 2 months out of the organisation? How would that impact his bonus? So financially, it was all of those sorts of conversations. Was that something that you also considered before you decided to take it?
Absolutely, because it would be a financial impact because it'll be 3 months unpaid. And then also in terms of the bonus cycle, how's that impacted? In a way, I did care about it. Another way, I thought, it is what it is. I'm not going to focus too much on that. I was going to make sure that my company's supportive and I made the decision, I'm going to do it. Now, that was a driving force. And either way, I went to my boss, who was fantastic, and he turned it around really quickly, and HR fantastic as well. I was so nervous, I actually went with 2 options. And I said, hey, boss, I'm thinking about taking shared parental leave. However, I want to do the best thing for the organisation. I'm going to give you 2 options. I'll either take shared parental leave, which is required, and I can just take it, give you 8 weeks warning, and off I go for 3 months. Or what we could do, I could take parental leave, which I know through my research, every parent can take 4 weeks up until the child is 18 years old or 16 years old, one or the other. And so I've got 2 children, therefore I could take theoretically unpaid leave over the 8 weeks, but it just gives you guys a bit of flex in terms of when you want me to take it, because if I take shared parental leave, I've got to take it before my son turns 1.
Yeah.
If you think the business drivers is better for me to take the leave post my son turning 1, then I'll go down the parental leave part. And I think he was quite happy about me really thinking about it. And he went away and came back as well, speaking to his boss, and said, look, Yash, we'd rather you take shared parental leave, do it sooner rather than later. Actually, from a business perspective, it makes sense for you to be back October and beyond because we need you around in terms of focus on business requirements.
Right. So
go ahead and just do it. And after that, it just kind of happened, and there I was, off I went. People started hanging out in the office. Oh, I heard you're going on a long holiday. I'm like, no, I'm not going on a long holiday. And that's what it is. People think it's 3 months of fun. Yeah, it's fun. It's not fun. It's amazing, but it's challenging because
parenting is challenging, right? And it's not a break. It's not a holiday. And what's interesting, do you think that women would get the same comments when they're about to go off on maternity leave? You're about to go on a long holiday, or do you think it's just comments that men typically get if they're taking shared parental leave or time out?
I think it's what men get. There's an unconscious bias. A standard quote is, okay, mummy gets pregnant and best of luck and have your great maternity leave. And they get it, right? Full-time mum looking after the child. If a father was to say that, now a father would say, I'm going to be off for 2 weeks, I'm back in the office again. If they said anything above and beyond that, I think people will say, and I've heard it in the office, and I've heard it from other people as well, you're going on long leave. You're going to have great fun. You're going to have great fun. Play a bit of golf, go skiing, go to the pub. And I'm serious. I think that's perception.
It is, isn't it?
It's bizarre. And even when I got back from my shared parental leave, people didn't say to me, how's your shared parental leave? Other than HR, my boss, who knew exactly what I did.
Sure.
My peers and the younger generation who haven't got kids yet, and they're far from it, how was your holiday? How was your trip to America? Wow, it must have been an amazing 3 months in America. I'm like, it wasn't 3 months just traveling. It was... Don't worry about it, guys. You know what? I'll say it for another day. But it's that perception that I've been away for 3 months. I didn't have the energy to explain what I've been doing.
Wow. And tell me, because you're senior, you're a partner actually in your company. I guess I'm interested in whether you think that it was easier or harder for you to take time out given your position.
The way it happened for me was very easy. Now, whether it's because of my position or not, I don't think it's got anything to do with my position. I think I think the organisation I work with is very forward-thinking and very supportive. The group president of the organisation I work for, very supportive. And he even said, I'm fully supportive of Yash doing this. I think he's great he's doing it. And he should be a role model, right? And if someone senior is doing it in the organisation, that sends a message to everyone who low in the organisation in terms of hierarchy and grades, that actually we can do this because this guy has done it. So why can't I? And it's amazing, when I got back in the office, there were a few other people that came to me saying, can you walk me through the policy, Yash? Because I'm not quite sure in terms of from applicable to take it, but I'd love to take some time out. I think it's amazing you did that. And even outside of work, people are saying, it's great. How did your work manage? You must be so busy. You must come back to like a nightmare of activities at work. You must be really stressed out now. I'm like, no, I've actually come back to the organisation with further opportunities. And I came back and my role had kind of evolved while I was away. And I kind of got a promotion when I was out for 3 months. So I came back to a more senior role.
Did you?
Yeah. So I come back to a more senior role. The boss sat me down and said, look, you can take this role, which is kind of status quo, slightly evolved, or whether we want to make you the head of the region, broader remit. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, give it to me. I'm ready for it. I've had 3 months out. I'm now ready for that next challenge. So I came back to a senior position from what I left.
Wow. Because that's really what's fascinating to me. You said a lot of things that are fascinating to me, but just closing down on that policy, because you mentioned it a couple of times now when you were looking at what you could do, your organisation supported in terms of the policy, and also other men then afterwards coming up to you saying, could you give them a hand and figure out what this policy is actually allowing you to do? I've heard that a number of times, that the policy often isn't clear. It's there, but actually it's not explicit. The organisations don't actually say, look, everyone, this is it. You're about to have a baby. Congratulations. Here's page 5 of the whatever policy. Please have a read of it because it might be something you would be interested in. I don't know whether organisations do that. It sounds like your organisation may not have obviously proactively explained that what the policy is and how. What are the issues with policies with regards to shared parental leave, do you think?
I think the policy point is applicable to all organisations. And I think that the challenge is there's policies for everything. And what do you focus on? And what do you communicate? So I think my organisations do a good job in terms of making quite clear in terms of where policies are. And it's down to the individual to go and read about it. Now, there's whiteboards in terms of what you can and can't. I guess it's down to where your focus is at that point in time. You may want to read about a particular policy in your life, which is more applicable. Now, shared parental leave isn't applicable to everyone.
Of course,
anyone,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's all there. And I think the organisations do a good job in terms of making sure it's there. The challenge they've got is how they communicate the right thing to the right audience without bombarding people with everything and anything.
Sure.
Because I wouldn't be bombarded with stuff or educated about stuff which is not applicable to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge. I think the challenge is how do you get that communication effectively and the awareness. Now, I think we can't put all the blame to the employers. I think what's happened, and I think especially since 2015, I just don't think we as humans are talking about it as much.
Okay.
Right? I don't think the blame is purely on the organisations. I think they can do better in terms of thinking about more creative ways of getting the message out.
Sure.
But I think we've all got to play a role in this to make sure the message is out there. So then if you are aware about policy, you know where you need to go to. So I think what's happened as this new legislation of shared parental leave came in 2015, I think what's happened in the past, the culture and the lack of knowledge amongst managers and HR personnel has really halted the growth of shared parental leave, because I think it's been new to everyone and no one's really championing that message because they're trying to work out themselves what does it actually mean.
Sure.
The University of Birmingham conducted some research in terms of the uptake of shared parental leave. Now, I think we keep reading about, it's so poor, 2% since 2015. Okay, if we look at the latest stats, actually, if you look at the financial year of 2018 to 2019, it has increased by 11,000 applicants. So the numbers are increasing. Okay. And it's increasing because we're now in 2020. It's 5 years on when the policy was put in place. Yeah. You look at LinkedIn, on a daily basis, I'm seeing organizations reacting to it saying, hey, we're enhancing our shared parental leave, we're enhancing our maternity leave. And I'm reading about it every day. Now, is it because I'm LinkedIn?
That's exactly what I think. How biased is my LinkedIn stream now? Because I work in this space, where we were both interested in this space, we work in this space. I'm never sure how much of a skewed picture of the world I have.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm not sure about either. So, and I guess I'm hearing more now in my organisation and others that actually, as there's been more talk about it, people are becoming more aware. So I went to the Women's Network at my organisation. I was a guest. I spoke about my shared parental leave experience. I talked about the benefit to my wife. I talked about the benefit to my children. I talked about the benefit to me.
Yeah.
There were men sitting in that room. Do you know what? Even if I got the message to 5 men, they're going to go and talk to 5 other men. It's a network and it'll spread. Hey, do you know about this story? This guy, Yash, shared parental leave, he took it. No, never heard about it. What is it? This is what it is. We can take it. Anyone can take it.
Amazing. I guess I'm still baffled how a policy that can only benefit families, men, women, children, how a policy like shared parental leave, having been around for 5 years now, how we're still fascinated by the people who are taking it. That James Miller, I read the piece from Working Dads, and when he interviewed you, and he was like, oh, you're a role model by simply taking shared parental leave. And I get it, and I also believe you are too, but I'm also curious as to how we're still at a point where a policy that's 5 years old, that the people using it and taking it can be role models.
I think there's a perception that you've got to fight several battles to get that shared parental leave. And when you've got it, you're an amazing person. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think there's a multiple of factors which are contributing to that perception that if someone takes shared parental leave, oh, wow, aren't they a super dad? Oh, wow, aren't they a role model? And I forcefully, categorically deny that I'm not trying to be a role model. And I didn't do this for anyone else other than my family. It just happened.
Absolutely.
The BBC News got hold of me because I saw my LinkedIn update and they said, can we talk an article about you? And then the whole penguin thing kicked off as well. But mothers out there who don't want to share their shared parental leave.
Yes.
The first time they the mothers, they want to not share it and they want to be the full-time mum. And that's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a father that wants to take shared parental leave will need to battle with his wife to say, I want to take shared parental leave.
Yeah.
Hold on, number one, right? And if he negotiates with his wife, then great. Now, in some cases, there's no negotiation. Both family members agree that actually we should share it and they do it.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is fathers are still deeply rooted in their traditional role as men, as being the breadwinner of the family.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a man that acts against that grain, they're seen as someone, round of applause, what an amazing person. This guy is going against being the traditional alpha male person. I wasn't trying to do that. I've never thought of myself as an alpha male or being traditional.
Yeah, but I kind of think that the point is less about being an alpha male and more about what masculinity is and what it means, because we're associating being masculine with being the breadwinner and not caring for your family. So surely it goes down to that sort of systemic perspective of fundamentally our view of masculinity needs to shift.
It does. I see a lot of dads, and I hear from a lot of dads, who are undue pressure of thinking they've got to be the breadwinner. And their minds can't go beyond that because they think that's their role in life.
Yeah.
And actually, if they challenge themselves and take a step back, I think they'll realise that actually they're looking and focusing on the wrong things in life. I had a colleague of mine who contacted me post the BBC News thing, and he read a few of my blogs and that Penguin website and said, Yash, I feel like I've missed out on my daughter's upbringing. I've been too focused in my career. Put it all to my wife. She's been the main person raising my daughter. I'm going to change it in 2020. And this is why people think, wow, you've taken shared parental leave. You're a role model because you're going to change things. And maybe we are. Maybe we're just being a bit more, I'm not saying risky. I was told I was risky from an old boss. He messaged me, yeah.
That's interesting.
He saw the BBC News article and he said, well done for being risky and I'm really glad it worked out for you. And I'm thinking that there was no risk involved in it. And again, I think there's a perception that if you do this magical thing of taking shared parental leave or full-time stay-at-home dad or whatever it may be, wow, you're amazing because you must have really suffered to get that position.
What do we need to do to normalise shared parental leave then, do you think?
I think it goes above and beyond shared parental leave. I think the way I look at it, there's shared parental leave, there's stay-at-home dad, there's flexible working, there's taking more parental leave, which everyone's entitled to.
Yes.
Until the child is above the teenage years. The reason why I put Papa Penguin there is my own way, in my own little bubble, to try to say, I've got a large network. I know people in different industries, not just financial services. I know a good mix of males and females. I know a good mix of upcoming people who want to become parents. I know people who are parents. I know people who are struggling to be parents. And therefore, in my own little way, I just want to kind of share some stories, not just my story. I just want to share stories from other people. And I can see in that little bubble that actually people are talking about it and taking it on board by saying, wow, I want to do that. I was standing in the nursery queue one day and one of the mums said to me, I saw your article and it's fantastic. Really inspired that you took time out. You did some traveling as well during your leave. We've decided we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pull our daughter out of nursery. And this is a mother telling me, we're going to pull our daughter out of nursery at our expense. And husband's going to do a business trip in America. We're going to tag along as a family and we'll spend time as a family. We're going to go. And it's things like that. It's not about taking shared parental leave. It's the small things about actually, my husband is going away on a business trip. How can I make best use of that? That story of mine has somehow made her think, actually, there's nothing wrong to go and tag along and do some traveling with my husband, with the kids. So I'm about embracing the message about it's okay to be a hands-on father, mother, and work as a team and just spend quality time with your children while they're young, because before you know it, they're not going to need you anymore.
Oh, I'm so signed up to everything you've just said. And certainly from my personal perspective and what we've done, my husband and I, is embrace exactly that. And we are very much equal in our parenting, which it works perfectly for us. It's not for everyone, and it does work differently for different couples. So it's not like we're preaching to how it should be done, but it works for us. And I cannot speak to you without clearly talking about Papa Penguin, but I love the name. Tell me the story behind it.
So the BBC News contact happened in November, shortly after me getting back, spoke to the journalist, and within 24 hours, there was my picture up on BBC News on the website. And a good friend of mine reached out to me, and his name's Ajay Chabra, very good friend of mine. And he said, Yash, you've got to do something with this. I'm like, do something with what? You've got to do something with this BBC News article, because a lot of people are talking about it, loads of comments on Facebook. The funny thing is, people are actually questioning, are you a millennial? You've got so much grey hair. But, seriously, I'm not on Facebook. My wife was showing me comments on Facebook saying, BBC got it all wrong. Why the hell have they got an 80-year-old standing with his son? That's not millennial.
Oh, that's so harsh.
So harsh. I love these comments. Anyway, I'm a millennial, born 1981, just like I made it. So look, you've got to do something with this, Yash, because he's, a father of two, and very hands-on. And he said, you've got to share your story and you've got to get other stories involved. And I kind of thought about it. And he goes, just create a blog site and get stories up there, post your story. The BBC News article doesn't go into your story to depth. Put it up then and see where it goes. So
yeah,
I'm a guy, when someone plants a seed in my mind, I'll just jump onto it and I'll just think and execute it extremely fast. The weekend I bought the domain name after thinking about it all weekend. What am I going to call this thing? And I had various names. I'm not going to bore you with it, but it went through every single animal kingdom. And I'll explain the animal reason behind that. So in the end, I was watching Dynasties on Sunday on BBC iPlayer, David Attenborough, and there was the Emperor Penguin episode where it talks about the mother goes off, feeds herself after giving the egg to the husband, dad, Emperor Penguin, and he'll sit on it for 2-3 months, just sitting on that egg, keeping it warm. And the mum will go off hunting for food, filling her belly up, and then stocking her belly up with food so she can feed her child when it's born. And Dad Penguin, Emperor Penguin, just sits there for 2-3 months. And it's amazing. I was like, what a legend. That's the role model. That's the dad I want to be. Really hands-on. Not necessarily sitting there for 2 months, but beautiful. He's letting the wife do what he wants to do and what she needs to do. And he's not complaining. He just gets on with it. And yeah, I want to be one of those. And then I thought, Penguin. Yeah, Papa Penguin. What a great name. I don't have a role model. Right. And I think that's my challenge has been, I've not had a role model who I could say, I want to be a dad like that. Now, my own father, fantastic father, I'm not saying he isn't a role model. It's a different generation. He came to this country,
of course,
working in factories, pay the mortgage off,
doing
all the hours God could send.
Sure. He
couldn't take time out to do shared parental leave and do what I did, right? He was hands-on dad in his own way. My mum used to do night shifts. He would be the one at night who would his bedtime stories. So that very hands-on father instinct, I've got it inside me and I know what I want to be. But I thought, who's my role model in today's day and age? And I couldn't look at it in my network. I couldn't look around in my work office. I couldn't look at my friends. I don't know anyone that's done this. So I had to go to the animal kingdom to find a role model. And so I thought, this is quite powerful. I'm going to call it Papa Penguin. It's not about being sexist and ignoring the female view, but I think it's about, I was going to call it Mama Peppa Penguin at one point. I only got too tongue twisted and I thought, keep it Papa Penguin. And the objective is to just create a community where other dads, other Papa Penguins can share their stories about how they've benefited from shared parental leave or even the challenges of being a full-time working dad or flexible working dad or a single dad. I just want to get a space of stories where dads can feel like they can share and post things. Now, something may happen out of it. It may go nowhere anywhere. So I bought the domain name that weekend, and within a week of me just thinking about the design and my first story, it went live on the 19th of November. Yeah, so now what will be February? I've had so many parents contacting me saying, can I share my story? I'm now getting female voices involved as well. I think that's really important about fathers hearing the impact they can make by being more hands-on with their family what does it mean to the mother? And that's an important message. It's not all about dad, dad, dad.
Oh,
it's so important that fathers understand that actually the impact they're going to make to their family unit, but also the mother is so priceless. And I've got 2 stories recently up there, and it's actually amazing. And it's quite emotional when you read about it, actually. It really touches me personally, because I think about the things I've gone through, and I probably didn't realize I went through it until reading it now, thinking, oh my gosh, I went through that.
What do you mean by what you went through that? What was it?
Just, am I being the right father? Am I doing the right thing? Am I being a good husband?
Okay.
I never knew what good looked like. I'm a perfectionist, and I struggled to work out how could I be a perfectionist dad. And I think in the early days, I probably wasn't equal. I felt like I was doing everything I should be doing and more, and I'm a super dad. I actually wasn't. When I read some of the stories of other fathers, they were doing way more than I've been doing, especially my first child. But in my head, I was thinking, oh, I go to work, I come back, I wash the dishes, I fold the clothes, I do the bins, I do all of the other stuff. So what? It's life. Everyone does that. And now I'm realizing it's been quite therapeutic, actually, reading my own stories and my own blogs, because it realizes actually it sets me back a couple of notches to think about, I'm just like everyone else. The only thing has happened is I've read other stories about other fathers, and it's benefited me. If it's benefiting me, it must be benefiting other dads out there in some way or another.
Yeah. And I get it. You don't have a desire to be a role model, and you don't necessarily see yourself as one. But because you spent that weekend thinking about Papa Penguin and, get buying that domain name, going and seeking other voices, I am sorry to say, but I think you actually are one.
I'm a role model, fine.
I think you should own it. But that millennial father, it is one of the characteristics, intersectional characteristics I know that you relate to, and as well as being an Asian father, another characteristic. So let's take the first one. What's particularly unique about millennial fathers, do you think?
I think the millennial fathers have gone through some generational cross point. We're the ones that have kind of had experience of the old non-technological world, time before the internet, or when the internet just kind of coming in place, time before mobile phones and apps and all that kind of stuff. And I think being from the generation where we're seeing change and transformation and transition, we're kind of caught in the middle of the old world versus the new world, right? So when I was being brought up, we were brought up in a very liberal household, but strict in terms of education. You can't have computers. You should not have a console. You're not going to have a Sega Mega Drive or Nintendo 64.
Sega Mega Drive,
yeah. I couldn't have any of that. All my cousins did. I couldn't have any of that. And it's all about focus on education. You must be the first one in the family to go to university. You've got to make me proud, son. You're the eldest. You've got to go to university and make us proud, right? And so I grew up in an environment, and I'm sure a lot of my peers in that generation grew up in an environment where we were pushed to be successful.
Yeah. How much of that is, do you think, being in an Asian family?
Oh, loads.
Okay. So we've got the intersectionality here, haven't we, of being that generation, but also growing up in, are you first generation UK?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
First. So my mother left Africa, my father left India. My mother was doing medicine. She couldn't continue here for various reasons. She then ended up working in a factory. My father was working at a government position in India, couldn't carry on with that. He came here to study, did electrical engineering, couldn't go to university here, so they end up again in factories. So I think for our parents, I think a lot of other Asian parents, they were doing well in their home countries, and for whatever reasons, they've moved to the United Kingdom where they couldn't continue that path and end up in a different path. But their children, their dream is, because they couldn't wear the graduation hat, their dream is, can I see my child with that graduation hat?
Of course.
Right, yeah. I went to Disneyland Paris. I wanted to buy a Mickey Mouse teddy bear when I was like 10 years old. I still got it. My mum said, you can only buy one with a graduation hat.
I love it. I love it. It's just like, that teddy bear is going to inspire you.
Absolutely. So I've got this, it's a purple teddy bear, Mickey Mouse. I still got it, and it's got a purple graduation hat on it. And that was pumped into my head. Success. So I think, to your question about millennials, we go through transition, and we've also got the traditional part of our parents pushing down our heads in terms of the traditional landscape. We're growing in a landscape which is changing, evolving very rapidly. As we've grown up, we've come to an environment at university and the work environment where it's a mixed bag. We've got the old generation, we've got this upcoming new generation with new technology, ways of thinking is changing. And I think we're caught up in the storm. In order to keep up with the time, you've got to continually change. And I think the millennials have kept changing. We've had to keep evolving and evolving and evolving. And because my wife is also a millennial, she's evolved and she knows what modern parenting is. She's read about it. There's more books about it. There's more articles about it. So she has a vision in terms of what mother she wants to be. Now, a lot of traits have come from her own mother. A lot of traits have come from my own mother and my own father. So I think where we are in terms of the Asian community, the intersect, is you've got to be successful. It's all about work, 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 work. Now, I feel in my community, in the Asian community, a lot of my friends who are in the same age category as me and have children, they probably feel they've been drilled so much in their heads by their family about working and working, and they've seen their own parents work every hour.
Yeah.
Taking time out could be quite embarrassing.
So there's something about the cultural expectations of what it means to be Asian in this particular culture and going against that grain. It's almost like a double backlash. So not only are you going against the grain of masculinity, you're also going against the grain of what it means to be an Asian father too. Is that what you mean?
That's what I mean. I personally think some of my friends and circles can't do it because they can't get their head to think about doing it. They're so stuck in their ways about the path they're on, and everything's got to be planned for. If I take time out of work, oh my God, that's not part of the plan. That's not part of how we do things.
Yeah, yes.
When my children are old enough, I want them to turn around to me and say, Dad, why did you make a big fuss about this parental leave stuff? Like, it's so common. We just do it. We don't even work nowadays. We don't work. We just deal with the kids. And I think we'll get to that point. Flexible working from home. All of this stuff is when my children are older, they've got their own kids. If they do have kids, who knows what's going to happen. Yeah, I want them to turn around and say, you made too much of a song and dance about it. It's just, we just do it. We just do it now. We just do it.
Yeah. When I think back to watching TV when I was growing up in the 80s, you had to wait for a certain time of day before you could watch anything on Channel 4 because it only started at a certain time and all you saw was this little girl standing in front of a blackboard or whatever it was and some music. And now my daughter, she's like, oh, let's just watch Octonauts. And she's got the whole series of Octonauts on demand whenever she wants. And I can't imagine her getting her head round what back in the 80s when I was growing up. And maybe, as an analogy to that, maybe shared parental leave and parenting, this whole kind of journey that we're finding ourselves on now in terms of searching and trying to figure out, how do we make this work? How can we make this acceptable? How do we break tradition? How do we move on our understanding of masculinity, our understanding of what it means to be an Asian father? Maybe it just won't even be a conversation for them.
I don't think it will be. When you embed change in anything in life, it takes time for people to buy into that change, to understand it and transition to it. You can't point to someone and say you're at fault because the shared parental leave figure isn't at 100% or 50%. There's too many factors and variables involved here, I think. Yeah. And unfortunately, it is going to take time. It's not going to be flip the switch and magically everyone's going to do it. Some people can't afford to take it, right? And some people don't want to take it.
Sure.
So it's hard to look at that figure of 2% or whatever it is now and say it's failing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. And I just wanted to ask you, what do you think organisations can do to encourage or support men in their caring responsibilities?
I think one of the things we've got in place is just to have guest panellists to talk about fathers and mothers, to talk about their experiences and the challenges they have. So we have regular dialogues, lunch sessions. I think it's just communication. I think organisations just need to talk more about the subject, whether it's mental health, whether it's about caring for an elderly parent, whether it's taking time out with your child. I think organisations need to map out life and look at where pivotal things happen in the individual's life, which you are know going to happen, right? Having a child, pivotal change. Critical illness can happen at any point to anyone, pivotal change. Parents getting elderly, that person may start taking more time out and looking after their parents, pivotal change. And I think it's going to kind of map out not just the parenting part, but everything on a map and say, right, how are we going to tackle each of these major scenarios? We've got a policy behind it. How effective are we communicating that policy? Because these are life-changing experiences. And having a child is a life-changing experience. So the great thing is when I came back from my shared parental leave, I was sat down by the people. I was saying, how are you? How can we support your return? Please keep in contact. If you feel nervous or you don't feel, and I was fine. I was like, nah, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I'm all good. But that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Other people might not be. And that's the perfect question, isn't it? That wraparound support to understand you've been through something that's different to how you were before, and something might have changed for you. So let us understand what that is. And we can then support you in whatever way you need us to make it a smooth transition back or whatever you need.
Exactly. So I think it's about the pre-event planning, awareness, and some people may not know when their parents get elderly, they're going to take time out to look after them and what they can get support-wise in the organisation. So we get these well-being monthly newsletters, and it's amazing. So you get every month well-being, and it talks about health and other policies, and it's like snapshots of things you should be aware of. And again, I think it's communication. I think organisations need to get better at just communicating what they've got, and it's a challenge because it's how much do you communicate? You've got an organisation strategy, you've got the organisation competitors, you've got the day business stuff, which you've got to communicate.
Sure.
Then all the other stuff, you don't want to blindside people and think, you know what, I'm not reading any of it, I get too much. And that's the challenge. There's so much information out there. Yeah, I think you just got to keep talking.
Talking.
Informally and formally. We have a mentor scheme. I met with someone yesterday, who's new to the organisation. She wants to talk about my role, what I do. And in there, I talk about my journey. And she said, this is amazing. My husband is going through the exact same thing. He's a full-time dad, isolation, doesn't know where he can go. He thinks he's the only one out there doing it. I'm like, no, there's loads of stay-at-home dads. Go to Papa Penguin. There's some blogs out there from stay-at-home dads.
Yeah.
Just talking about it, without planning to talk about it, it just helps that conversation go that one step further.
I totally hear you. And I'm all for everyone sharing their lived experiences, because it's only through those stories and us hearing other people's stories that we can connect with each other and we can understand each other. And that develops empathy, and it develops a world where we're connected somehow.
Agreed.
Love it. So, Yash, we're coming to the end of our conversation. I've absolutely loved talking to you. I could carry on talking to you for a long while. Unfortunately, we have to end. Can I ask you if, for people who are interested, how they might get hold of you? Are you active on social media? What channels?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Yash Puri, Puri. I've got a profile there. You'll find me quite easily because I stated that I took shared parental leave. I'm very proud of that. I put it on my LinkedIn profile. I think people should know.
I love that. It's great.
So you can find me there. I've also got Papa Penguin as a company on LinkedIn, so you can find me there as well. I do loads of posts. There's my blogs. Then papapenguin.org is the blog site where all the lovely materials from all the lovely people who are sharing their stories are uploaded. Instagram, Papa Penguin blog. I'm trying to get on that front as well, where I can. Or contact at papapenguin.org. So you'll get hold of me somehow. Or speak to yourself, Nadia. I'm sure you can direct them to me.
Indeed. And of course, all of the show notes for this episode are going to be available on avenirconsulting.co.uk under podcasts. So if you need to contact either myself or Yash, then all of the details will be there. Yash, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me. It's been a brilliant fun. I love everything you're doing. I wish you all the best with Papa Penguin. You know you've got my full support. Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you so much. Great. Thank you so much, Nadia.
That concludes episode 4 of my Why Care podcast. I really hope you enjoyed the conversation. I loved Yash's proactive approach and willingness to share his story, and through that give men the confidence to adopt a more active parenting approach. Do let Yash and I know what you thought of today's show. You can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter with the handle @Nadia_Nagamutu. As always, I really appreciate your support of this podcast through leaving a review on whatever platform you're listening and spreading the word by sharing it with your friends and family. Huge thanks to Mauro Kenji for editing this podcast and Christiane Gross for supporting with the show notes and getting it out there on social media.